Gemini, this is your week ahead astrology forecast by Astrology Motivation from Born Without Boundaries. In these weekly videos, I review the major planetary aspects and transits and let you know how they impact your natal sun and what that means for your bottom line. To enjoy this video, to completely understand it, all you need to know is your birth date. Everything else I'm going to translate for you. We're going to start out really broad with the big general stuff, and then I'll focus down into Gemini specific information, and then we will get into the 3 decans of Gemini, which are a Gemini is a Gemini. Gemini is a you. A decan is a group of 10 degrees. And every zodiac sign has 3 of them because every zodiac sign is a total of 30 degrees. And by breaking things down into these decans, I can see what aspects your natal sun is forming to other planets, which will help me get insight into how you are going to be feeling or what you'll be experiencing this week. So let's get into the big stuff. The biggest of the big starts on August 1st, really, because we have a full moon. So it's a full moon in Aquarius that is square to Jupiter, which means it's going to be volumized to the point where maybe it's even exaggerated or too big for its britches. This sense of the overestimation of importance, or maybe feeling too much or placing too much importance on specific issues or situations in your life. Because it's in Aquarius, this is all about social relationships, community, friendships, but also fairness and social justice. It wouldn't be just blatant overarching justice. It would be social justice or uniqueness. Also, it could be things that have been the truth finally sort of being cast out and released. So that should be interesting. We also have Mercury, which directly impacts you guys, transiting from Leo into Virgo this week. That's pretty darn good, actually, because Mercury in Virgo is very how do I say it? Just lost the word. Pragmatic, practical. It takes what's in front of it and it organizes it, and it uses its resources to the fullest extent of using them. It is very economical as well. It likes to learn things. It likes to learn things to understand things. The more information, the better. And it's not quick to speak, but it does like to speak from a place of intelligence and what makes sense. So when Mars actually moves out of this opposition from opposition with Saturn in a couple of days, basically by the 29th of July, that opposition will be over. And Mercury slides in to this opposition with Saturn for a couple of days. This actually makes for a much less tension, much less anger, much less frustration, or even anxiety and depression, and much more, well, what do you want me to do about this? And how do we figure this out? And why isn't this making sense? There could be topics that arise about some sort of suppression or rules, laws, and regulations with regarding freedom of speech, especially when we have that full moon coming up in Aquarius. Those topics may be coming up. We also have a couple of other aspects to know about. First of all, by the 28th, the opposition between the Sun and Pluto has ended, and that's really gonna, as much as things are still very tumultuous, the pressure is gonna feel like it's been relieved. It's not gonna feel as heavy. We're not gonna personally feel as heavy because that opposition is a very heavy feeling intensity. So that's a little bit of relief for us all. But the Sun is square to Jupiter this week, which means we can feel rushed or set upon to grow and expand even outside of or beyond what we're capable of. It is an optimistic energy. It just can get a little bit too big for its britches. But the fact that Mars is also trine to Jupiter, there's a sense of maybe we need that to happen right now. Maybe it needs to be more about trusting our instincts and jumping in, taking leaps of faith, or being optimistic with the actions that we take before we have all the information, because that's just where we got to be right now. I don't think we have the information. I think that there are new systems and structures being formed. That's what Saturn in Pisces is all about. And now with the opposition between Mercury in Virgo and Saturn in Pisces, there's a sense of, okay, how do I get this done if it's never been done before? Because Virgo energy very much, especially with Mars in Virgo, very likes to work in what's already been done, what we already have in front of us. But if it hasn't been invented or created yet, we're going to have to start from scratch. And that can be very frustrating energy, but also very necessary. There can be also information that comes out that defies rules, laws, regulations, and the status quo. Just an FYI. Let's see what else we got written down here. Venus. So Venus is Venus is squared to Uranus all week long. And this is very mischievous energy in and of itself. But the fact that Mercury for 2 days, between the 27th and the 29th, is going to be conjunct, very tight, within a 1 degree orb conjunction of Venus. This makes for mayhem, but almost playful mayhem in the way that we kind of want to be mischievous. I've been comparing this to A Midsummer Night's Dream. If you've ever read the play by William Shakespeare, it's one of the absolute best comedies by William Shakespeare, and it's all about basically taking situation and turning them upside down and inside out, and making the wrong people fall in love so that things get turned back correct. Because maybe what we thought was wrong is actually not that wrong. Maybe it's actually right. And so that's kind of like what it is. It's mayhem that helps us correct ourselves. And there's going to be very mischievous things going on, especially over the internet or through the internet. Flirting with people that we shouldn't be flirting with, extramarital affairs, all of those things, like having those kind of conversations that aren't even necessary. They're more taboo. It's not about being forbidden. It's about being outside of the norm and not wanting to be confined anymore. Like almost getting jitters under the skin because you're so sick of the usual and the average. So the usual and average is off the plate this week. I'm telling you, this is going to be something that could really surprise us, especially with that full moon in Aquarius, which Uranus rules. I feel like Uranus this year, Uranian energy of surprise me, independence, abnormalities, and the unexpected, like the connection to prove what seemed unrealistic prior, is somehow coming to a pimple popping head on this full moon on August 1st. So let's see what happens, right? Okay, so what does this mean for Gemini in particular? Well, we look at two things. What's happening in Gemini, which is absolutely nothing. There's no major planets or planetoids or asteroids there right now, no major luminaries there right now, but there's a lot going on with Mercury. And so we've touched upon some of that. Mercury is going to be traveling from 28 degrees Leo into all the way through 6 degrees of Virgo, because it's moving quick. It's not moving as quickly as it can, but it's still moving kind of quick. Mercury is transiting into a new sign. Its home domicile of Virgo on the 28th, which is very big and sort of will actually give you kind of a solid sense of self. Now, because Gemini and Virgo are both mutable signs, eventually this means that your natal suns will be square to Mercury at one point throughout this entire week. In fact, we'll talk a little bit about that with Gemini ones right now this week. But Mercury is also in opposition to Saturn starting basically around the 28th. Also on the 28th, Mercury is going to be conjuncting Venus as well. So there's a lot of things that happen to Mercury on the 28th. So there's maybe information that's being exchanged, revealed, or suddenly understood. Let's go into Gemini, shall we? What does all this mean for you guys based on where your natal sun is located? Well, if you know your natal sun is located between 0 and 9 degrees, then it's in the first decan of Gemini, and you guys are Gemini ones. In terms of birthdays, this is basically May Geminis. Anybody born between the 22nd of June and maybe the 22nd of May and the 1st of June, you would be Gemini 1s. No. May 22nd and May 31st, you would be Gemini 1s. So your natal suns are sextile to the current sun, which is going to make you a little bit more confident, and you definitely should use your self-esteem this week to be seen, validated, and have people pay attention to you and listen to you. There's going to be a lot of conflict though too, because it's you guys who are going to be square to your ruling dignitary of Mercury from the 28th on through the rest of the week. Now, what does that mean? When your sun is square to Mercury, it means you almost like you're having your own little Mercury retrograde, being misunderstood, miscommunications, not reading things correctly, information not coming in when you need it, could be some sort of technical failures. All of this could kind of go wrong this week. So it's not the greatest time to have important discussions or make important decisions or sign important paperwork or take important tests. If you can, I would put it off till the week after, just an FYI. But your natal suns are also square to Saturn. So it means that your natal suns are right in the middle or falling right in the middle of this opposition between Mercury and Saturn. So, and they are trying to the current sun. So there could be some things that you are bringing to light that is forcing people to start to kind of question or at least debate these, rules, laws, regulations, and all the regularity and the scheduled pragmatism that goes along with those. It's like, should there be a restriction on what we can say? Should there be a restriction on what we can learn? Should there be a restriction on what we can communicate? It's almost like somehow this is you this week bringing this to light or rubbing up against it a lot and having to do something about it or being able to finally figure some of this stuff out. So this is a very clever week for you. Caught between two squares, there's going to be a lot of frustration, but also a lot of opportunity to learn and expand. FYI, especially at work, or I don't think it's necessarily at work so much as it is at work. Yeah. I'm not going to say where it is because I don't know which house all of this for you guys is happening in, but just in general, butting heads with authority as well as butting heads with needing communication, maybe not being heard or not being spoken to correctly or emails not going through. All of that could be happening with you this week, but there's a sextile to the sun, which means that you will have an energy, like a boost of energy, and you will have everything you do will be seen, and maybe that's exactly what you need, because whatever struggle you're struggling with might bring other struggles to light. Just an FYI. I wrote down in the margins a conflict with the powers that be that is highly public in some way that you're maybe putting on blast for everybody to see. So we move on to Gemini 2. If you know that your natal sun is between 10 and 19 degrees Gemini, then it's in the second decan of Gemini and you are Gemini 2s. This correlates to birthdays between June 1st and June 10th. We have a square to Mars, which can make you extremely restless and easy to anger, quick to anger and quick to be frustrated, as well as pop-offish and defensive. It can also make you like want to do too much or too impulsive. An impulsivity that could lead to injury. So just be very aware of that, and where you can, try to slow yourself down this week. There's a long-term sextile to Chiron that makes you driven to find opportunities through the hardships that you've been through and also open doors for others. Also find opportunities where you can open up doors for others based on traumas or challenges that you've experienced. Paving that way and making sure that your way forward also allows other people to come forward as well. Now, this is long term. It's been this way for a while and it continues to be this way. But with this square to Mars, it may feel like you're being restricted, you're being held back, and you're not being able to create as much momentum as you wish. The slower the better at this point, because you could rush by things that are very, very important. So absolutely, you're being slowed down to kind of figure out the right way to do things instead of, even though it's not as fast as you might want. Just an FYI. You also have a semi-square. Your natal suns are also semi-square to the North Node, which means that there is a little bit of frustration and maybe even stubbornness with regards to your discomfort zone, those things that make you particularly uncomfortable. And facing those or figuring out where the discomfort is coming from could actually help you to understand how to move forward in the correct way instead of doing it impulsively. Just an FYI. Let's move on to Gemini 3s. If you know that your natal suns are between 20 and 29 degrees Gemini, you're Gemini 3. This correlates to birthdays between, say, the 11th and the 22nd of June. Maybe 11th and the 21st, because sometimes by the 22nd, Cancer season has already started. It just depends. So your natal suns are sextile to Venus this week, which means sexy time. This means also opportunities. This means, especially since Venus is square to Uranus, there could be some sexual run-ins or flirtatious conversations that you're having with people that are actually unattached. That are actually attached and not really as available as they're making you think, or maybe you're taking advantage of the situation and making yourself more flirtatious, even though maybe you are attached. Whatever this is a very sexy, attractive time where you will find yourself being naturally appealing to people, especially when Mercury between the 27th and the 29th of July conjuncts to Venus. Oh, you will be Mr. or Mrs. Romance, and you'll be able to spew that poetry and all those sentimental things in just the right way to get anybody's attention and to get heard. So this could be quite a spicy and successful week in romance. There also could be good news coming in for you when it comes to finances. We have your natal suns are trine to the North Node, which means there's sort of comfortability when it comes to moving forward. This sense of peace with where you have to head and your discomfort zone not being so uncomfortable anymore. You have a long-term quincunx to Pluto, which means over the next couple of years, there are going to be extreme changes or a lot of frustration that comes from sort of the build up to transformation, a sense of I need to change, I want to change, or these are the changes that I have to help happen. You let me know in the comments below, Gemini, how you're experiencing the energy this week. Don't forget to like this video as well as subscribe to the channel so that we grow over here in Astrology Motivation. And then come on over to Born Without Boundaries Tarot to enjoy your week ahead tarot card reading. I love you guys, and I'll see you in the videos. Bye.